So, how many of you wake up super excited to get out of bed and go to work every day? I hear laughter. Oh, I see 2 hands, that's awesome. Usually I get like almost no hands. And how many of you would like to wake up and have more tools so that you can actually feel excited to go to work every day? Yes, that's almost everybody. That's also really good. Welcome to Turning Vision into Action. And some of you might be asking, well, what's the relevance between vision into action and you be excited going to work? A recent article that was published in Forbes magazine showed that over 85% of employees were either disengaged completely or not that engaged at work. Is that surprising? Not that surprising given the way things are going, right? And what that means is people are less happy and less productive at work. Now, you might ask, well, I still get my paycheck, so what's in it for me? That's a common response I get. And what's in it for you is this, is that what studies show, especially when we're looking at neurosynapses and mindfulness, is where you pay energy and attention to is what grows. So if every day the first thing that you're waking up to is, oh crap, I gotta go to work again. Or throughout the day is, I can't wait for that clock to stop at 5 p.m. so I can go home. Then what do you think is growing? Energy that is not moving you forward, energy that is draining, making you feel like dread. And some people think, you know what, I could just turn off that energy when I go home. But what studies also show is that it's actually hard to just snap out of it and go home and be this bright and awesome self when at work you might be a troll, or you might be grumpy, or you might be waiting for that clock to end, right? Would anybody disagree that they could just snap out of it and be like, I'm my awesome self again? It's hard, it's hard. So what's in it for you is that you going to work, having vision and turning that into action is something that you can feel proud of. It's something that can make you feel good and feel energized. And will it be 100% happy all the time? No, but what it can do is can revitalize you, it can energize you. And when you have that energy at work where you feel like there's a sense of accomplishment and something positive is going on, that's also the energy that you can carry home with you. And when you go home, that positive energy where you can be present with your family, where you can hang out with your loved ones, and really enjoy that moment, it's gonna be much better than if you went home and what you talk about is, I'm really unhappy at work, or I get a lot of laughter from them. I love this group. Really unhappy at work, or I just really don't feel like being there. It's really dreadful going to work, right? And so people think that when I escape work and it's 5 o'clock, I'm out of work. But what often happens is when you're obsessive and you're unhappy at work, you carry that home, and all the free time you have, you just spend complaining about work. Who agrees with that? It's like everybody in the room. And then you probably have friends where you're like, please, don't come anymore. I can't take another day of your job, right? I know so much about your job, I can't take it anymore. So that's what's in it for you. Turning your vision, something that excites you and that motivates you into action, is healthy for you. It's healthy for the organization. And you know who else it's healthy for? Your loved ones. Because they're gonna love seeing your bright, magnificent self. Nobody wants to hang out with the person who's always complaining. I love this group. They're laughing a lot. I bet they have a lot of chronic complainers in their group. And you're constantly talking about how terrible it is and how awful it is. Nobody wants to be around that all the time, right? So if you can imagine waking up excited going to work every day, and showing up to work and actually doing work that is meaningful to you, that inspires you and touches you, and then going home and sharing that with your family and loved ones, wouldn't that be awesome? Yeah? So who here is ready to learn those tools and strategies for that? Awesome, every hand is up. I love it, I love it. So before we delve into the program, I just want to take a moment to thank the university, Sid and her team, and everybody else for making this happen and providing this awesome venue with an amazing view. So we can give them a round of applause. It'd be really great. I've been at this conference since it started 3 or 4 years ago. And what I want to say is that this conference is really meant for you. And at the time, I was a staff member here at UC Berkeley as well. And I just remember being so touched that the university would actually dedicate an entire day to help us plan for our careers and really think about the next opportunity at work, whether it's within the university or beyond. The tools and the skills that you're learning from this workshop and this entire conference is going to be beneficial to you and your personal development. And it would not be possible without you amazing attendees. It is a beautiful day in Berkeley. I could just go out there, drink coffee, a boba, whatever that is your drink of choice, and really enjoy your time out there. But you've all decided to really make this commitment to your careers and to stay here. And I really want to acknowledge you for being here. So what I want you to do, which I know a lot of people that I work with, and I've worked with over 1,000 people, don't do very often, is to acknowledge themselves. So what I want you to do is to work with me on this, is to raise your hand, and then just give yourself a nice pat on the back. And a big round of applause for you staying here and being committed to yourself. We have a short hour together, and it's going to be jam-packed. I talk really fast, and there's a reason for it. It's because I want to get as much in as possible. And at the end of the day, it still is only an hour. So we're going to break this process down into 5 simple steps for you. And hopefully by the end of this workshop, you're going to have some tools that you can implement right away. And then on the second sheet, what you'll see is how to stay connected with me. If you want to stay connected and keep in touch, you can fill this out a few minutes before the workshop ends and hand that back to me, and we'll be able to stay connected that way. So what we're going to do is jump right into the program. And as an overview, what we will be talking today is about having a clear vision, having a positive mindset, an influence plan, a win-win framework, and the commitment to make all of this happen. So one of the key mistakes that people make when they come up with an idea or a vision is they don't have a clear vision. How many of you are extroverts? There's only like 5 of us in the room? Okay, yay, they're the group that's laughing a lot too, so I can see that. And I presume the rest of you feel that you're more on the introverted side. So, in studies, we see that extroverts like myself, the way we come up with ideas is we have lots of ideas running in our heads, and we'll go to the first person we meet and we'll say, hey, Harumi, so great to see you. I have this brilliant idea, blah, 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 right? How many of you do that? It's like all the experts in here, right? And that's great. But sometimes that can be really overwhelming for the person on the other end, say your supervisor who has to constantly deal with you coming up with a lot of ideas. And oftentimes the ideas aren't worked out, right? Because you've just thought of it, and then they'll ask you, okay, so when do you think you're gonna plan this? And how many hours is it gonna take? What kind of resources? And you're like, I haven't thought about any of that. I just came up with these ideas. Like, can't we just focus on that, right? And then you have the introverts who, as a tendency, have this idea that, I've gotta work through everything. And I've got to figure it all out before I present an idea. And a year later, guess what? You're still thinking about those ideas. And they're just going in circles. So what we want to do is to make sure that you have a time and a space to actually put that idea down so that you can really be sure and clear about what it is that you want to do. So some of you might be thinking, well, I don't have any ideas right now. Or I have multiple ideas, or I don't really know where it's going to go. Again, this is the start of planning that creativity and that vision. So what I want to do right now is on your handout to write down 1 or 2 key ideas that's coming to your mind. And however you wish to express it, whether it's through drawing, some people are more creative that way, or writing out descriptions, you can do that right now. So just come up with the 1 or 2 key idea that you feel like, gosh, this is the big one that I want to do this year. So I'm going to give you 3 minutes to do that. And now I need to find my timer, but your 3 minutes start now. I love how serious this group is. You guys are intensely writing or drawing, and that's really great. If you don't have this practice on a regular basis, I would encourage you to put on your calendar once a week. Just give yourselves 5 to 10 minutes. Just jot down ideas that come up for you. Why do we do this? Because to dream and to have inspiration and creativity, no matter what your job is or no matter where you're at, is really important for you to keep inspired and to keep moving forward. Will all of these ideas be brilliant ideas where they're going to be winners? Likely not. Studies show that 9 times out of 10 our ideas aren't so great, or maybe it's not the right timing, or it's not quite developed yet. But it's important to practice this exercise because it's so easy to come to work at 9, clock in, do the humdrum, clock out, and go home and just feel deflated. So if you have something in your schedule once a week, I'd say Friday morning at 9 a.m. from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., to just jot these ideas down, that will allow you to continue to create and get your creative juices to flow. So can we all make a commitment that we're gonna spend 10 minutes a week to do this? A lot of head nods? Yes, awesome. So what were some of the ideas that came up for you? Curious to know. Someone? Yes, go ahead.
So for me, presenting, so this is more kind of a personal goal, it's just presenting at either a NACAC or a WACAC. So topic of presentation to be determined, but it's, something to kind of push myself out.
Awesome, I love that. I love that you're at a place where you're stepping into yourself and saying, you know what, I've got so much awesomeness and wisdom in myself, and I want to share it with the world. And the fact that you've said that out loud and put it on paper, it's likely going to allow you to have more places to where you can put that into action. And throughout this presentation, what we're going to do is work on the building blocks to help make sure that you actually go from that place of having that dream of helping others and being of service to others to present a program and actually implementing it. Can we give them a round of applause for sharing that idea? I'm gonna hold you accountable to it too. Any other ideas that came up? It could be something like changing a process in your current workplace so that it could be more efficient, or presenting another program to your staff so that you can have more leadership or more tools to help you as you're working throughout the day. Anybody else want to share? Yes.
Sorry. The purchase of an electric golf cart for the purposes of providing a service to the campus community. Our department is responsible for the ADA loop service for students, faculty, and staff Monday through Friday. So we're trying to find a clean air vehicle that will not only meet those goals, but also safety. Forward-facing seats and seat belts and all of those things. So that's a goal.
Yeah, awesome. Round of applause for her for sharing. I really love what I'm hearing is that there's something that's really key, clear, and specific about what it is that you want to achieve. And the other thing that I'm really hearing as a theme throughout this conference, not just at this particular workshop, is how much of service you are. Here you want to present a program to share your knowledge with others. And for you, you wanted to think about buying this cart because you're trying to help people who might need those services because of disabilities. But you're not just stopping there, you're also thinking about the environment and also safety issues. So it's really amazing. And this is something that I love about the UC campuses whenever I go to meet with people or having had the experience of working here myself. And I would love to have more time to hear your wonderful ideas, but we are on a short timeline. So I'm gonna move right along to the next step. But if you've just gotten started on your idea and you're one of those people who didn't have a clear idea as clear as these two, go back to this and give yourself some more time tomorrow, not the day after or following that, because then you kind of lose that inspiration, but find a time tomorrow where you can clarify this vision a little bit more because it's a work in progress. Okay? So we're moving right along to the next thing. So when we have an idea about something that we want to do that is positive, what automatically comes up? What? Money. Time. Obstacles. So all these reasons why it probably won't work. Right? You want to do an electric cart? We don't have money for that. Who cares about clean air, right? You want to present a program? Who has time for that? We have so many things that we have to do, a limited amount of resources. We can't give you a day off, right? Those are the things that automatically comes to mind whenever we have a vision. And they're not necessarily bad, because these are actually things that we need to keep in mind as we're planning for what it is that we want. It's not so much that people want to be in your way of achieving your goals or helping the campus or helping the students or helping your staff. It's just that we're all really busy and we all have habits that we work with, and change, even if it's good change, is scary for everybody. Right? I see a lot of head nods, like, yes, change is scary. And there's a lot of fear behind it. So it's really important for you to actually think about the fears and acknowledge them, and then also think about, well, how are we gonna combat those issues? Because they are gonna come up, and avoiding it isn't gonna be helpful. But thinking about how we might transform those fears into positivity is going to be really great. So with your vision in mind, I want you outside of the square, not in your square of positivity, but outside of the square of positivity, to list whatever fears that is coming up for you. I'm going to give you 30 seconds just to do that, to acknowledge the fears for now. 30 seconds goes by really fast. How does it feel to just let the fears out? Good? Yeah, let's do some like, It's really important to just put it on paper, because a lot of times what the fear will do is you'll kind of build in your head, and then all of a sudden it becomes into the Tasmanian devil dust, right? Where it's just clouding yourself with all this negativity, and then you don't get anywhere. So it's really important to just put it down there and put it out there and say that, okay, these things might be really real and valid. Sometimes they aren't, but whatever it is, there's always a way to figure out a solution to it. And with that possibilities mindset and that positive mindset going from scarcity to abundance, I want you to now shift your fears into thinking about, well, how do we change this into something more positive? If the answer is, I don't think we're going to have time to do this, where might you carve out time to do this? Or are there projects that you're working on that doesn't seem to necessarily need to take as much time, and you can divide that time into this? So right next to your fears, what I want you to do is draw an arrow to the right side and ask yourselves, how can you frame that fear into a positive thing? So if I'm afraid that there aren't resources, one way that you can talk to yourself is, there are plenty of resources on campus. Where can we find that particular resource to help with this? Okay, so just give you, and the shifting of the mindset takes a little bit longer, so I'm gonna give you a minute to do that. So I often get the question, why does mindset and positivity matter? And there's a lot of research now that shows that having a happiness mindset or a positive mindset is what actually leads to success. And often what people think is, once I'm successful, I'll be happy. What most people find is that once they get there, they're not. I see a lot of laughter here. She's like, yes, I've been there. And so what we want to do is to get to this place where, instead of looking for all the things that can go wrong and all the reasons why we can stay stuck and frustrated, we're now looking for how can we transform that experience into all the things that we can do to make the situation better. There are a lot of things out of our control, and I know there's news about budget cuts and other things that are going on. And those are all things out of your control, right? Would you agree with that? Yeah, there's not much you can do at this point in your roles. And, but the human mind is designed to obsess and focus on all the negative things. And it's not actually healthy for you. It just increases your cortisol hormones and your stress level and your inability to make good decisions. And what we want to do is to really focus on the things that are within your power. And what is within your power is having this vision and thinking of key ways to implement it. And the first step to success is really to go from that negative space, if you're in that space, into a positive space. And then if you're already in a positive space, that's awesome. We'll do even more positivity, right? And if you can go in with this winning mindset, what studies show is that when people, and this is a neutral study, when people were primed to look for the color red, they saw a lot more red than they ever did a normal day. And so what this shows is that whatever it is that you're setting your mind to, you'll see more of it. And I hope that in your career, in your life, no matter what the situation is and what the crazy forces are outside of you, you can put your mindset on what it is that you can do to make it happen and make it possible and make it positive for yourself, because that's your daily reality and that's what you can build in. And what studies also show is when you go in this mindset that it's possible, the chances of success are much higher, right? Because when you hit a roadblock, you're not just gonna say, oh, forget it, I give up. What you're gonna say is, okay, that really sucked. What can we do to make it better, okay? The next process, and we'll skip to this slide first, is once you have an idea in mind, one of the key mistakes people really make is to really think about what's in it for me. So a typical conversation, and actually a conversation I just had with one of my clients who's a new manager. She's fantastic. She works at a university, and she really, really wants her staff to be super engaged and super excited about work. So she asked them, like any good manager would, what can we do to make your lives better? The response was, well, I've been at my job for a few years now. I don't feel really challenged, and I just feel like I'm coming in and it's not exciting and it's not new, and I need something to make me feel more excited. Anybody can relate to that? It's like, yes. So her response is, great. I have all these new projects, and I'm just going to divide it amongst you, and your problems will be solved. Yes, and let's see a lot of like, oh God, no. How many of you experienced that? A lot of us. And that's a very typical response for a manager, especially somebody who's just started out managing, right? And so to her surprise, she was met with a lot of resistance. And she's like, why? I was responding to your needs. I asked you what you wanted. You told me you're bored and frustrated. There are all these new exciting projects, and I gave them to you. What else is it that you want? Like, I can't believe that you don't even think, you see how hard I've worked and I've sought out these projects for you. Miscommunication, right? And so it's a win for her and the university because there are all these exciting projects and they need to get these things done, and you have a staff that wants new projects, and she thought that was a perfect solution. What she did hear underlying that also is that they're already being overworked. They're already being under-resourced. They're already down a staff member. How could they possibly add more projects to the plate? And so she also didn't communicate to them that, hey, the reason why I'm doing this is because we've talked about these things. So in our strategy plan, what we did was we went back and we said, okay, what is your ultimate goal? Her ultimate goal was, I want my staff to be happy. I know they've been here for a long time and they're super smart and valuable. I don't want to lose them. I'm also stuck in a tough situation because I cannot give any of them raises because of budget issues right now. The reality that she's in, right? And so how are we gonna make this happen? So we designed a plan where instead of just giving everybody and solving their solutions or problems by giving them these great projects, to actually go back to the table and ask them. And so one of the things we devised for her was to start a staff retreat, which she's never had. And the first thing we did was before the staff retreat even happened to let them know that, hey, here are the topics that we're gonna talk about. We're gonna talk about starting off positive. What is it that you love and enjoy about your job? Common responses are working with the students, being part of a bigger mission. Those are really amazing things, right? What is it that you find challenging and frustrating about your job? And then the last piece is this. What do you think we can do as a team to make it better? So she's not going in as the hero, I'm gonna save you. And by the way, the answer was not a good answer to the staff. What she's actually doing is inviting them to come in and make decisions. And when she went to the staff retreat, there was still some resistance, but it got the conversation going. And what she was able to do at the staff retreat was really to set a positive tone, a positive space of, we're in this together. And I really value you. I'm here and I'm committed to making this work. How can we make this work together? And after that, she also had follow-up meetings with them, one-on-one meetings with them to really hear them out and talk to each individual person to see what it is they wanted and what it is that she can provide and how could they do it as a team. And the response that she got was so much more positive. Were there a lot of major changes that could be made? Not in 3 months. But the energy and the positivity and the feeling that people got was like, wow, for the first time, we're really feeling like we're being heard. And with that, they were able to come up as a team how to change things in the department. And what they decided was to really review all the programs and projects that they were working on a major level and really go through and say, okay, what is it that we've done for the last few years that is working really well and we should keep? And what is it that we've done that used to work really well in the past, but given the changing climate of where things are and how many resources we have, it's just not a good idea to keep working on this because the impact and the value that we're getting from it isn't as much. And then together, they were able to design that and then create room for these new projects. So often what happens is when we go into a situation, we've thought about what's in it for us, right? We've thought about like, this is gonna be great, I'm gonna get new experiences, I'm gonna get training and development, or it's gonna really make a big impact on my constituents. But often what we don't think about is it good for our team? And what is our team gonna think about? And then more importantly, is it also good for the organization overall? So those are the two other components that you need to think about and how can you frame that as a win-win situation. So in your chart, you will see a section that says mutually beneficial to you, your team, and your organization. So in that space, with that story in mind, I want you to write down how can you frame what it is that you want to do as a win for your team and also as a win for your organization overall. You got to speak their language. So I'll give you 3 minutes to do that. So one of the biggest benefits of attending this conference is for you to have a chance to meet people that you don't know. And so hopefully, if you hadn't yet by today, you've met at least 1 or 2 new people that you can reach out to across campus. And one of the most important things when we have ideas and visions is to share it with somebody. So what I love for you to do now is to find a partner and just to share your vision of what it is that you hope to achieve in the next 6 months to a year. So find a partner quickly. All right. I love the energy and enthusiasm in this room. I feel like people are just like, okay, we don't want to stop talking. And I don't want you to stop talking, but we have like 20 minutes left and I want to get through the next steps. How was that to share your ideas out loud? What was that? 1 more minute? Does anybody else need another minute? Okay, we'll give you 30 seconds. Is that okay? Okay, all right. Your 30 seconds, you can keep talking for 30 seconds. They really wanted it, yes. I know, 30 seconds goes by really fast. All right, so if we could just have everybody come back to the front of the room again. And okay. If you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap twice. If you can hear me, clap 3 times. And if you can hear me, just clap indefinitely. For yourselves, of course. So it takes a lot of courage to actually have a vision in mind and to say it out loud. And then to also take a step back from that and ask ourselves and do a gut check and say, okay, I want to do this, but is this really good for my team and my organization? Most people, they come up with an idea and they kind of stop at that, and then they get really frustrated if they get turned around. So what I want you to do, as you're going through your year, every time you come up with an idea or a vision, big or small, is once you've done the analysis of what's in it for me, to then think about what's in it for the team and for the organization, and does it match up? Because the reality is we work within a setting, and if it doesn't match up, it's probably not going to go forward, and you don't want to waste a lot of time and energy in that because you're just setting yourself up for failure, right? At the end of the day, you come to work and there are certain goals that we have to achieve, and if what you want personally that's good for you isn't good overall for the team or for the organization, it's not going to pass. And it's not personal, it's just that there's a limited amount of time and resources and want to be creative about it. Now, if you've gone through the first process of this is good for me and it's great for the team and the organization, then we know we want to continue investing in that process. So this is how you stop yourself before you set yourself up for this like loophole where like, oh no, I spent so much time on that, it's getting axed. And you're setting yourself up for success because you've already thought about what's in it for the other person and how can you frame it in a way that's not just a win for you, but also a win for them. If you go to your boss and you say, you know what, I know your biggest challenge is we don't have popcorn in the office. Not a real challenge. And my solution for you is I can make popcorn easily. You think your boss is gonna say yes to that? Yes. But if you go and you say, I really want popcorn, we don't have popcorn, I think we need to get a popcorn machine. Is your boss really gonna say yes to that? No, it's all about the framing. So you always wanna take yourself outside of the conversation and look into the situation and say, what is it that the other person wants? Because there's often a win for every single person. It does not have to be a zero-sum game. And if you've done that gut analysis, the next step is to think about your influence plan. And in your influence plan, you wanna think of who is the ultimate decision maker. In the last case that I shared with the story about my client being a manager, she's the ultimate decision maker in her office. But sometimes ultimate decision maker doesn't really get to only decide what they want. There's also other people who are involved who can influence that decision. You can see that if she had just gone on with her plan and stayed frustrated and just said, you know what, I don't really care. I'm doing what's best for the office and I already took you guys into account and went down that road, it was gonna be a really hard road for her, right? Especially as a new manager, to have a lot of your staff be upset with you and to not really want to work with you. You're not setting yourself up for an easy life. But instead, what she was able to do is, even though as a decision maker, she looked around and said, okay, I thought I was doing what's right, but I saw some roadblockers, basically naysayers saying like, why want to give us more work. We're already tired, beat up, and overworked. That's not going to work. We want to do these things, but unless something moves or changes, we're not going to be able to do that. She also had to build support. And that's why we designed that influence plan of saying, go back to the table, have a second or third or fourth conversation. Sometimes it takes that many conversations to move things forward. And she had to not only get buy-in from the staff overall at the staff retreat, she then followed up and talked to people one by one by one and had several meetings with them to make sure that not only was she hearing the team's needs, she was also looking at the individual's needs. And some individuals wanted more time, one-on-one working, interfacing with students and clients and staff. Other people are like, that's just too much. I'm so overloaded in that area. I want to work on some more projects where I have some alone time and it's just me working on the projects. And she was able to shift that for some of the individuals. And she didn't have a one, set solution for everybody because it wouldn't have worked for everybody. And she also had to find people who were influencers. So sometimes all it takes is one bad seed, right, to make the whole thing go bad. I see a big head nod here. Yes, yes. All it takes is one bad seed to just poison the barrel for everybody. And so you really want to pay attention to who those people are. And they're often sometimes they're really loud and they'll be the only person talking at the staff meetings. Sometimes they're quiet and sneaky, but then behind the scene at the water cooler, they're like, I'm not sure about that idea, right? Or that was a great idea. And so you just want to pay attention to this. You've all been in your workspaces long enough, and if you hadn't, pay attention to what's going on. There's things that goes on in the meetings, there's things that are going on outside of the meetings, and you can kind of tell where people's positions are on things and where they stand and whether they're going to be ultimately deciding something, if they're going to be a naysayer blocking you from making things go forward, if they're going to be your champion and supporting your cause, or if they're going to be people who maybe don't have that much at stake, but they're going to be infiltrating, kind of like Littlefinger in a Game of Thrones, right? Where he's just always whispering to people and masterminding. So you want to pay attention to that because those things will help you set yourself up for success or for failure. And the more you know, the better it is for you. And also keep in mind that every person's decision-making or choice in this varies. Sometimes it's personal and sometimes it's professional. I was working with another client who's very new to her team. She was working at a private company and was joining a government organization. And obviously the pace that things move in a private company versus a government organization, very different, right? And she wanted to come in, she's like, I'm a hot shot, I'm gonna fire with a lot of ideas. Not gonna work, met with a lot of resistance. And her response to that was, well, let me tell you why it's really good for all of us. And often that can work, but what she was really missing was that she wasn't listening to her team. And so what had happened was there were a few staff members in her team, both men and women, who just had young children, and they really did not want to work evenings or weekends. And her idea was to have these programs that were really great for their clients, but it required a lot of evenings and a lot of weekends. And what she wanted to do was just explain why this was good for the company and why this was good for the clients, but she didn't really understand the real issue that was going on. It wasn't that they didn't agree that these ideas were good, it was that they had other priorities as well, and they wanted to make sure that they weren't spread so thin that they were only great at work and they weren't gonna have any family time. And so you could see that if she never understood their personal goals, but she was just butting heads with them, it would go nowhere, right? And for these projects to move forward, they needed a consensus as a team to go present it to their boss, because that's how their boss worked. The boss is like, I don't want any drama, so you guys go agree, and when you agree, you come back to me. And that's how he managed. And I was like, okay. So it wasn't going anywhere. It wasn't until she actually talked to them and said, okay, what really is the challenge here? Like, what is it that you are not agreeing with, or what is it that we can do to make this work for you? That she understood that their concerns were not so much that the programs and ideas weren't great, it was that they didn't want to do evenings and weekends. And the proposal that she had was that they were going to be working at least one evening every week for many months out. And so the idea was really ambitious. And what they were able to do is come back and compromise, say, okay, well, we still have these goals and objectives to make our organization better and to service our clients. How might we do it? And the compromise was this. that they would do it on a limited basis for 1 month only, not like this 6-month or year-long plan that she had. And what they would also do is rotate who would be there that evening. So not every staff member has to be there, and that the workload would be balanced out. So you were not spending your evening hours at work all the time. And with that, they were able to then go as a collective group to present this to their supervisor, who was happy because he didn't have to deal with the drama. And it was good for the clients, and it was good for everybody. So really important to keep that in mind about not only do you have your team's goals and your organization's goals, there are also individuals that are involved. And if what you want to do has to get approval or consensus from these individuals, how might you talk to them and ask questions in a way that moves the ball forward? So with that in mind, next to your box where you have these different figures, I want you to just jot down names of people that you think will be in the different sections, whether they're decision maker, whether they're gonna probably say no to your idea and why, whether they're gonna be a supporter, or whether they're gonna be helpful in influencing the team. And the people who are decision makers, roadblockers, and supporters can also be influencers. It's kind of like a messy little jungle gym there. So I'm gonna give you a few minutes to do that. This group is like the largest working group that I've been to at a lot of presentations. You guys are intensely writing and really thinking this through, and I love that. And I hope what you're keeping in mind as you're working through this is that the vision or idea you have, it's not just good for your organization, but it's also good for your personal development. And should you ever make a choice to transition to another position, this is also going to be something that will help elevate you to sell yourself to that new position that you want, whether it's within the university or beyond. So were there any surprises to the names that came up in the different sections? No? You're like, you guys got it all figured. You're like, yeah, I know who's going to say yes, who's going to say no. Yeah? Have you guys ever broken it down where you're thinking about the individuals and thinking about what they're going to say in response to your ideas? I see some head nods. I see some like, no. So this is an exercise that you always want to practice, is to really think about who's involved and how might you sell the different things to people. And one of the things I would encourage is if you know that you're trying to push a big project, let's say that project on buying the cart, and there's going to be a lot of hands involved because it's probably going to be pretty expensive. It's a big budget item, and there's going to be a lot of people who have to say yes and sign off. She's like shaking her, yes, yes, yes. And if you know who the naysayers are right away, and they happen to be somebody who's really influential and powerful, that's somebody you're going to have to court before you have a public conversation about it, right? Because what you don't want to do is go to a meeting, surprise everybody, and just have your idea killed like that. Because when it's done in public in that way, it's really hard to come back from that. Whereas if you have some quiet conversations with people along the way and really figure out what's going on, where might we be able to make some adjustments and get buy-in, even if there's one person who says no, if there's a collective group supporting the idea, there's more chances that your idea is going to get approved. Sound good? So the last key component that people tend to struggle with is staying committed. Often we get inspired. Like today, you're at a conference that's amazing. I've gone to some of the other workshops. I'm like, wow, I want to do that. I want to do this. And I'm somebody who suffers from the squirrel syndrome, right? Bright, shiny object. You're like, yes, 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 yes. And then you go back and you're inspired for a day, maybe 2, and then you're back in your humdrum, right? Anybody's experienced this? It's like everybody's hands are up. Yes. So it takes commitment to make this happen. And so what I love for you to do is to think about, how are you going to stay committed? Who is going to be your support system? Do you have a coach that you're working with? Do you have an accountability buddy that's going to keep you on track on a weekly or a monthly, whatever basis you think is supportive to you? Where in your calendar are you allocating time for this? So we started with 5 minutes on Friday mornings to write down inspirational ideas. And if you have a project that's massive that you want to work on, that's going to take time, it's not just going to happen overnight. And you can't just say, I'm only going to work on it when I feel inspired. Because it's hard to be inspired all the time. I mean, I do that work, and there are days where I'm like, oh, I just want to watch Real Housewives. But if I did that all day, I wouldn't be able to get my work done. So really calendaring the time and making that commitment to happen, to make that happen. So underneath the little squares things you have, you see a section that says action plan. And what I want you to do in the next minute is just to write down, what is one thing you can immediately do that will help move your vision forward. For those of you who are really clear, it might be scheduling a meeting. For those of you who are not clear, it might mean going back to the drawing board and looking at how to clarify that vision. The second thing is, when would you like to complete this vision by? If you have a project that you want to finish by a month, then put that down and calendar it. Because if you don't calendar it, it's not going to happen. If you want to finish it in 6 months, that's great. Then you calendar that as well. And the last piece that often people don't really account for is how much time it's going to take in between to get to that ultimate goal. And there are many successes that you have in between those goals, right? So if you want to buy or you want to do a presentation, the first thing you probably have to do is come up with an idea of what it is that you want to present on, know when the dates of the presentation is going to be, see what the concerns might be from your supervisors or your team around that time frame to see if it's going to be possible for you to go given what's going on. And if there is a lot going on, how might you do something so that you can be away for a day or two? So you see that there's a lot of steps in place in between you wanting to go to the conference and you actually being at the conference. So just a minute to jot down those 3 things so that you can put this into place. So I'd love to hear what's one action you're going to take tomorrow to make this vision come into reality. You're going to reserve space on your calendar. Awesome. If you don't have that on your calendar to do already, you should definitely reserve space on your calendar. Can we give her a round of applause for sharing that? And really, there is a lot of value to calendaring it, because if you don't calendar it, it's not going to happen, because we're so busy and it's so easy to just say, I'll do it tomorrow. And then tomorrow turns into a month, and then 6 months, and then a year. And then by then, you've lost all inspiration to do it, or you just think it's just not going to happen. Any other action items that people are going to put? Yes, see your hand? Talk to a stakeholder. Awesome. So does that mean you're going to set it an email? You're going to drop by their office, run into the office cooler? Drop by their office. I love that. She's not even going to wait to send an email. She's going to drop by the office and take that action. Let's give her a round of applause for sharing that. And what's so awesome about that is once you've talked to somebody who is involved and can make decisions, and they can also be your champion and also give you more ideas of how you can expand what it is that you want to do or how you can make it even more successful. Or if on the flip side you hear that they're having a lot of concerns, you know that you can go back and say, okay, there are a few more things I need to research so that I can alleviate their concerns. Other immediate actions that people are going to take. Yes.
I'm going to call my friend that's an expert in that area and get her advice.
Awesome. Okay, so you're doing research outside of the organization. You're calling a friend to get expert advice on how to make something happen. Awesome. Can we give her a round of applause as well? I love the share in this group. Yes. And it takes so much courage to share in a big space like this, right? Because you've written it down, and now that you've said it out loud, now you're like, oh, it's public. I've really got to do this. Any other key actions that people are going to take, or insights or breakthroughs that you got from our time together in this short hour that we have? Yes, you and then you.
Write it down somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
As you said, 5 minutes or something, and just jot things down. Think of the big picture and potentially steps to get there.
Right, awesome. So what he shared was true. It's really important when you have ideas to actually write them down somewhere, because otherwise it's just muddling in your head and going around. And the other big thing is to really think about the big project, but then breaking it down so that it's actually feasible to accomplish it. And then you?
Mine is, there's a particular course that I want to take here on campus, and I've always been procrastinating. So starting tomorrow, I'm going to go on the website, get the information, and register.
Awesome. So there's a course that you've been wanting to take and you're going to register. So a round of applause for both of them. Thank you. Any other last insights, questions that you want to share before we wrap up? No? It has been such a true pleasure and an honor to come back. I am a triple bear. I went to Berkeley for undergrad. I came back for law school, and then I came back to work here as a career counselor at the law school. I have so much love for this place, and it has impacted my life at so many stages in my personal life and my career. And no matter what's going on, I know there's a lot of stuff rumbling and a lot of uncertainty and changes coming, not just at this university, but across this country and across the world. And there's so many challenges that we're facing. And what I hope that you get from today's conference that you can carry with you is this idea of possibilities, this idea of inspiration, and this idea that you have power within you to really turn your vision into action and to live an inspired life every day, no matter how challenging the times are. And to also keep in mind that when you do that, you're not just benefiting your organization, your team, you're benefiting yourself, and you're also benefiting your loved one. And I just want to wish you so much success in your career. And on your second page, you'll see that there's a form to do evaluations and also to stay connected. So if you could just take the next couple minutes to fill that out and hand it back to me or our lovely assistant over there, that'd be really great. Thank you so much again for having me here. It's a real honor.